Hello, sir.
Hi.
So this is something like a 40-year dream for you. So what's the first emotion that comes to you now? How do you feel actually? Like relief, satisfaction, nervousness? What's your feeling right now?
I think first is foremost is contentment.
Okay.
So I may feel satisfied. Not for anything, but for having had a chance to do this film. It is it's a difficult film, but every day I had some kind of satisfaction. I was it was happy doing the film, and hopefully the rest of the cast and crew were also happy.
Okay.
So it had a lot of difficulty. We had to shoot through the pandemic. We had to wait, start, stop. But it didn't deter us. We went through with full conviction that we'd be able to finish it and do it well. And happy that we are here talking to you now.
Okay. So like you said, you had the pandemic in between as well, and this particular novel has had a very troubled thing. From MGR, we have seen many people attempt it and then give it up. So, and even the industry was saying that it's jinxed. So, when the pandemic hit, did you have any thoughts on, did I really touch upon something that I shouldn't have?
No, I don't have faith in those things. I don't believe at all in such things. I just feel that there are a lot of coincidences that they put together. And if it was abandoned before, or not abandoned. If it was not carried forward, it was not carried forward before for various reasons. It was a huge project. It was very expensive. There are too many casts, so it's difficult for it to fall into place very easily. I was lucky that it fell in now. And now it becomes much easier because of two things. One, that we are able to do it in two parts, so we don't have to cramp the story. Two, the VFX is improved drastically, so we were able to do justice to the scale that Kalki had written.
Okay. So did the pandemic play any part in, say, the planning or something like? Because everyone is actually very shocked that you managed to shoot both the films in 115 days. Within 150 days, which is quite phenomenal. So, what is it? Everyone says that Mani Ratnam is the master planner. So, what is the planning that you go with, and what's the secret there?
No, there's no secret. There's only that you have to do that much homework, and you should know that there is a limit. That you have to do, you have to deliver, you have to keep targets and keep meeting the targets. And I think pandemic. Should I wait for the flight?
No, not a problem.
It's okay. No, the pandemic actually did upset a lot of things. I mean, we had planned the schedule in a particular fashion.
Okay.
After the first schedule, pandemic, the lockdown came in and we had to stop. And what we wanted to do last, we had to do early.
Okay.
Because the small gap in the lockdown came, and in that we wanted to cover what everyone would be required to do. So we covered, so the schedule was kind of reinvented. And then when we went later, the second lockdown was relieved. It was not universally relieved, it was, some cities had different numbers that could allow, some not more than 100, some not more than 300, and we had multiple locations to shoot in. So to make sure that each one will be in right, numbers and be able to do without it showing, as a problem on frame. So, and without, offending or crossing any restrictions that have been put out of health. And also the fact that we had to take extreme care, all the precautions during the pandemic, I mean, all of us were in PPE and masks and shooting.
Okay. So. But in terms of budget, or say in terms of the number of people that you had on set, say maybe you had planned for a crowd of 2,000 people, but then you had to go with 500 people. Did that happen?
If it shows like that finally in the film, I can't give that as an excuse. So I had to make sure that at no time in the in the film that you will feel that it's been done during restrictions. We had to manage it in such a way that it looked like we shot it during normal time and that we got whatever we needed to get and did it without any compromise. We did it without compromises.
Okay. So you've spoken in many interviews about how even after all these years, finding the right approach to a film is what is something that keeps you awake.
Yeah.
With this film, given that you've traveled with the novel since your maybe teens and even as a filmmaker you have traveled with it for over 30 years. So did that problem happen with this film, or were you able to cross it easily? How did you manage to do that?
No, the problem was much more in this film than the previous films. The thing is, when you're thinking of a project far ahead, you just think of it as an overall. You don't look at, how you're particularly going to take one particular emotion correctly and things like that. So that issue doesn't come up. You look at an overall, and that overall you try to structure and slowly get down to it, and then you break that up into sequences, then you break it up into scenes, and the paperwork gets completed when the scenes are all written. But from there, the scene is written on paper. From there to actually execute, have the artist in place, have sunlight coming in, have a geography, have things set up, and then how do you, make sure that it looks alive, it looks believable, what should be there in the foreground, what should be there, what are the things should happen which will make it look like they're not there standing and talking the lines for the camera, but actually are in the middle of something and this happens in that. So that is always nebulous, I mean, you have to search, you'll have to find something that rings true, and maybe that is what can elevate the film, move it away from a choreographed structure to something that just happened.
Okay. So here, was there any Eureka moment when you felt that, okay, this is the approach I'm going to take? Like you have mentioned in some interviews that you wanted a more contemporary, realistic take. So when did that hit you? Was it something that you had in mind even in the 90s when you were discussing this with
I think that comes in once you have the script and problems more or less sorted. And then we look at what look to go for in the film and what tone, how are we going to shoot it, what are the styles that we are going to adopt, and you do tests. And then at that point of time you realize this is not what I want, maybe we should try this, and if that falls into place. So it evolves at that time, not necessarily at the start of the script, then it becomes a very restricting factor. If you fix the style much before the script is, then the script itself gets designed with that. So you develop the script, and then when it comes into the direction department, that's when you start looking at how do we convert the script into film.
So what made you go for this approach? Is there something that is there any factor that you were looking at when you decided on this particular approach?
I think Kalki took the lead, when he narrates the story, he narrates it like it's happening now. He tells the audience, now let's go 1,000 years back. He literally holds their hand and takes them all the way back, and then introduces Vandyadevan, and through him introduces everybody. So he talks constantly to the writer, to the audience, as if they are there, and he is along with them. So there is a sense of inclusiveness, and that is what we were trying. That when we shoot it, that it should not be like we are telling a story that once upon a time happened. That once upon a time we had to take away and make it look like it is happening now. Now we are in that period and it's happening now. So we will be in the thick of it and not look at it from a distance and not look at it as a story being told to us.
So you had initially planned this as a single part film in around the 2010 something. So and then after Bahubali you have said that you decided it could be made into 2 parts. So how did the script evolve from the single
I think it was version? A relief, it just expanded itself.
What were the things that you were able to bring in to?
Not that, I think originally we would have done it in one part, but it would be a bit of a hurry, bit of a rush.
Okay.
Each one will have to go at a pace. It won't be, something which we can tell, with details and with time and with this one. So making it into two-part actually gave us a lot of liberty.
Okay.
Gave the breathing space for the entire narration.
Okay. So talking about hurry, I just wanted to go back to this shooting amidst pandemic. Since you were shooting during this time, and there were times when people did not know whether there would be another lockdown coming in or something, did you shoot this faster than your other films?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. I didn't think, none of us doubted that we'll be able to finish the film. I sincerely didn't think. I think it is a problem. It is not a problem for me. Problem for the whole world. Everyone is facing it. No one knows what's going to happen tomorrow. So only way to do is to look, no point in worrying about it. Be ready for when it opens up. So we are constantly looking at options, looking at ways in which we can move, get back to shooting. So we just didn't rush anything.
Okay. So what about the casting? What was your approach there? Because some people are now saying that he has cast people who are not Tamils in a film that is about Tamil pride. Do you think this colorblind casting is what is needed these days, or?
I think it's very easy to just be narrow-minded and keep saying only this. We are making a film. We are making an Indian film. You want to control it to a language, a color. This one is not necessary. I feel that we are talking about a time when everything was open. The Chola period had Buddhism thriving, had Hinduism thriving, had Jainism there, and they were all encouraged. Rajaraja Cholan built, the Nagapattinam Buddhist monastery. So we are talking about time of inclusiveness, and why do we today have to look at it as exclusiveness?
Okay.
We try to cast characters which we think are close to the spirit of the character.
Okay.
Not just the color of the character, but the spirit of it. Somebody who will be able to get that personality across. And that is what we want to really.
Okay. So,
and if you look at Kalki, and if they bother to read Kalki again and see his description of each of the characters, then they will not ask this question.
Okay.
It is just that they, probably haven't read it well. I'd request them to read it again.
Okay. So, quickly, can you talk about what was the characteristic of each of these actors that you found?
If I had only one word to say, then I didn't need the actor.
Okay.
It would have been one word. The thing is, each one of them is very well defined by Kalki. It's got layers and it's got motivation, it's got spirit, it's got an arc. It is fully fleshed out.
Okay.
And that is what we try to capture. Kalki had a lot of pages to flesh it out. We have very small film time to flesh it out. But we try to get the spirit of each character as honestly as possible.
Okay. So what did Jayamohan and Kumaravel bring in terms of?
Two huge supports for me, and they helped me to understand that period very well. And the entire dialogue is written by Jayamohan.
Okay.
And he made that is the difficult part, in the sense that the language, today's Tamil and Tamil during that period is very different. So if we start using the older Tamil, when I watch today, it could become very stagey. It could look like a stage play, or it could look like what I've seen before in period films. So I wanted something which would evoke that period, which will be classical Tamil, which can't be contemporary Tamil, but which somebody can perform with ease. Somebody doesn't have to do one, chest thumping Tamil oratory thing. It should look real, natural. And what he had done was absolutely a huge blessing. So, every actor could perform it with ease. The feel was correct. Yet the Tamil was absolutely classical.
Okay.
And there was no Sanskritized words used in the film. So it was, in that balance, I think what he's contributed for the film is tremendous.
So did the fact that the initially poor response to Selvaraghavan's Ayirathil Oruvan, which had a portion of Cholas, did that factor in your mind in terms of language that you wanted to use? Because
not really. I think this film is looked at as a cult now.
now,
You know,
yeah.
and they,
Having worked with Aishwarya Rai since her debut film Eureka, how do you see her growth as an actress? What does she surprise you about when it comes to?
I think I'm very surprised at the way she's able to learn Tamil and speak it. So it's quite amazing. You know, that she puts in all the hard work, learns the lines, and then she's able to take direction. I was very happy with what she did for Iruvar in the first place. Yeah, I think Aishwarya Rai was very good in Iruvar, you know. So it was the first film, she didn't know the language, but she still managed to do two completely different characters, and I was happy with her work.
Okay.
And from then, every film that I've worked with her, she's delivered. I think she's so. I think even this, it's a difficult role, completely different from what she's done before. But she did it with a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of hard work.
Okay.
And it's there.
Okay. So, coming to the music, even there, did you want a more contemporary sound?
Yeah, I think the overall style has been that, you know, not just only classical way. See, the thing is, when we look at a 10th century, we really don't know what the sound was at that time for music, you know. We think that whatever was portrayed in the 1930s, 40s film, when they portrayed these people, that sound is the authentic. I mean, that itself is a imagination. So that cannot become the template, that cannot become the order. So what we went for is something which will evoke that period and but present the drama of it like today. So it will have that flavor, and we went and searched and, you know, found things which kind of will bring in that purity of that period. But we had the orchestra supporting it.
So 30 years working with Rahman, and he still gives you a song like Devarala Natam. So how do you react to it when you hear it the first time?
The Devarala Natam was a very specific one. We had gone to Bali for composing a film, and there we had gone to all these temples and things, and they have something called, which is from India, which has gone there, and called a monkey chant, you know, which is really, I think possibly it could be about the Hanuman and Sita, you know. So we had gone there and we had, you know, actually recorded something, you know, and that had this kind of vocal spirit. It is about, you know, 100, 200 people sitting around and chanting, you know. So that gave us the spark for Devarala Natam. That looked like something that went from India and stayed pure there, you know. So that is the element that we started from there, and we went listen to it. But if you sit at Rahman's studio and he's called people, and the way he constructed that song, you know, I mean, the way he made, no one knew what they're doing, you know, but he built layer by layer. He just, and before, you know, in couple of hours we had this complex vocal, you know, magic that is happening. So, I mean, he just pulls things out of the hat.
So he said that when you gave, he initially gave you some classically influenced tunes, and you were not really responding to that. Why did you want something that was not really classical?
See, I think it's two ways. I think the fact that he gave a tune and he still continued working means he was also not fully satisfied with it. It's just that, like I told you, it goes to, you know, conveniently to what was done in 1930s and 40s when they did historical and mythological films. So it goes into that form. Whether actually Carnatic music in that form existed in 10th century is doubtful. So it is not necessarily authentic. It is what we associate with that period. If you are associating an imaginary thing with that, you might as well associate another imaginary thing. So we went searching for something else which could be authentic, and then we found this Devarala Natam, and that gave us the lead.
Okay. So you're working with newer lyricists in this film. So what were you looking for when you picked them? What was it about them that...
Tamil, their command over Tamil and Sangat Tamil. This was a chance for us. See, unlike music, the lyrics, the poetry has been there and documented. We have poetry from the Sangam time. Okay, they've all been documented, and there is that richness of, Tamil poetry. So wanted that element to, somebody who was very strong at that, be able to bring in, the song like Sora Sora. It has that metric quality of military and have, Tamil at its beauty, where writing it in rhythm. And so it was a chance to use that Tamil into our film.
Okay.
So that was exactly like what could have been there at that time. So the lyric part of it was close to being real, and this is an imagination of of the kind of melody that went with it.
Okay. So did you have to brief them differently, or was your approach the same as when you would have worked with Vairamuthu?
No, it's we just brief them about the language that you want, what style we want. We wanted it like Agana Anuru, Purana Anuru. We have to tell them, sit with them, chat with them, and then they start working, and then we together search for it, and then it becomes, they come into the flow and they're able to deliver tremendously.
Okay.